Arca 1964 here again. Look at racing of interest between June the 8th and June the 14th. And we start on Monday at Carlisle Apprentice Handicap Stakes, 4 years old and above, and it's over 5,182 yards. Also at Pontefract on the same day, another apprentice race. It's Apprentice Handicap Stakes, and race details essentially is an apprentice training race, part of the Racing Excellence series, a fraction over 5 furlongs, and again 4 €+. Of course, it also has two memorial races: the long-running Tony Bethel Memorial Handicap Stakes over a fraction over 2 miles 1 furlong, 4 €+, and the new Bill Cargill Memorial Handicap Stakes, so fraction 1 mile 2, again 4 €+. The Bethel race has been around for a long time, since 1997. I can't find any evidence of his connection, say, with Pontefract. Bill Cargill, I'm assuming, is the local bookmaker who has some article about it, look on the internet, and it talks about his dad, George Cargill, dying in 2017. So I assume sadly that Bill Cargill died this year, and this race has been named after him. Over in Ireland at the same day, most commonly have a Conrad National, which has been run since 2011. That's one of the shorter nationals, I would say, over 3 miles 1 furlong, 24 yards. Same day and evening meeting at Brighton. We have Apprentice Classified Stakes over fraction under 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds+. And on the same day, back at Carlisle again, this time an evening meeting, this time an Amateur Jockeys Handicap Stakes over 5 furlongs, 182 yards, 4-year-olds+. Also Tuesday, Salisbury has the Remembering James Samuels Handicap Stakes, exactly 6 furlongs, 4-year-olds+. This race has not been run before, so sadly I assume that James Samuels died in the last year. On Wednesday at Hamilton evening meeting, we have the Amateur Jockeys Handicap Stakes, fraction over 6 furlongs, 4-year-olds+. And the Robert Graham Miller Memorial Maiden Stakes over just over 1 mile 3 furlongs for 3-year-olds+. This has to be Robert Graham Miller, who died early last year. As it comes to the internet, from his son, same thing has happened. His son is involved with minibuses of Lanark, and Lanark is where Hamilton is close to, so I think it has to be the same person. Wednesday evening at Kempton Park, there's another apprentice race, Apprentice Handicap Stakes, and that's a fractionally under 2 miles, 4-year-olds+, and also a Merv Cox Memorial Handicap Stakes of exactly a mile, again 4-year-olds+. I can't find any information about Merv Cox, so this race was first run last year. She must have died not long obviously before that. Thursday evening meeting at Leopardstown in Ireland. There's a Ballycorus Group 3 of a fraction over 7 furlongs, 3-year-olds+. I can't find anything about a horse called Ballycorus, so I'm assuming it's named after the Ballycorus lead mines, which I thought maybe it might be a horse named after that area, but I can't. Pedigree query cops come with nothing at all there, and so it's in County Dublin, and so it's going to be quite near to Leopardstown, so that's obviously the connection with the name. And there's also an apprentice handicap of mile 1 furlong, and that is for 4-year-olds+. Same in Newbury has the Eddie Keogh Memorial Handicap Stakes for exactly 1 mile, 3-year-olds only. I can't find any obvious information about who the Eddie Keogh this race is named after. There is a post I found on the internet connected with Swindon College Old Boys Rugby Football Club talking about Eddie Keogh dying. It might be the same person. I'm just checking, 40 miles away from Newbury Swindon, so it's not impossible to be a connection, but I mean that's the only one. It's a new race, so it's obviously died quite recently, so it's the most likely answer, but it's not a definite one. Also on Thursday, Yarmouth has the Paul Corrigan Memorial Novice Stakes over a fraction over 6 furlongs, 3-year-olds+. It's been a race named after Paul Corrigan for a couple of years. In fact, in 25 and 24, it was actually a more handicap. Now, obviously, it's another stakes, so it's changed to this, but I don't know anything about Paul Corrigan. Friday at Chester, we have the Amateur Jockeys Handicap Stakes. So this is special riders conditions, and all they are just over 7 furlongs, and that's a 4-year-olds+. And the Danny and Harriet Birthday Bash Handicap Stakes over 1 mile 2 and 70 yards, and that's for 3-year-olds only. Same day at Goodwoo, we've got Sir Eric Parker Memorial EBF Restricted Maiden Filly Stakes, exactly 6 furlongs, and that's for 2-year-olds only. This race has been run since 2015, and Sir Eric Parker, according to the owner breeder website, was a successful owner breeder, a long-term Racehorse Owners Association council member, and their former president, and he died in 2014. Perhaps best known actually as the owner of Seagram, winning the 1991 Grand National. Friday also has an evening meeting at Market Rasen, and there's a conditional Jockey's Handicap Hurdle over 2 miles 4, 1 39 yards. Also at Sandown, on the same day, have a Chris Barnett Memorial Handicap Stakes over fraction over 5 furlongs for 4-year-olds plus. This race was first ran last year and therefore has to be named after the former racing broadcaster who died in 2024. Evening meeting on Saturday at Uttoxeter, and the Ground Share Cup North's Limited Handicap Hurdle over fraction of 2.5 miles. I say I like my sort of cup races, just with that name, and this race has been run since 2021. It's changed what it is a few times. It started in 2021 at Limited Handicap Chase. 2022, I assume it wasn't ran because it's not on there, maybe weather, and it was actually originally in October. Now since then it's been run in June, and when it was twice a handicap chase, last year obviously Limited Handicap Hurdle, as it is this year. Or Saturday at Bath, we have Prentice Handicap Stakes of just over 2 miles 1 furlongs 4-year-old plus. Also ended at Hexham, the Andy Calvert Celebration Additional Jockeys Handicap Hurdle over 2 miles 48 yards. Or Lisa Bond Celebration Handicap Hurdle over just over 2.5 miles. And 2 more races here, the Stan Hayhurst Memorial Handicap Steeple Chase over just over 3 miles, and the William Forster 70th Birthday Open National Flat Race over again just over 2 miles. And the Calvert race has been run since 2014. The Lisa Bond race since last year. Assuming these are celebration, it's probably kind of passed away and it's mentioned as a celebration of those people. Stan Hayhurst was from County Durham and died last year, and was one of the only 4 jockeys to ride a mare to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup when he rode Kirsten to win the race. He's also one of the jockeys involved at Doncaster Falls. You're wondering what you might not have heard of that horse before you follow racing. It's one of the horses brought down the pace in Fournavon disaster of 1967. I'm looking at this from a jockey, very good Jockeypedia site, and also late in his career he won the Champion Officers Chase, which no longer exists, Air and Racecourses Champion Hurdle, but now still does, both in 1970. And his last winner was a Seagram man staying here at the old Stockton, also sometimes called Teesside Park course in 1972, and he did various things like being racecourse judge and a steward later on. Sandown on Saturday has the listed Scurry Stakes over fraction of 5 furlongs for 3-year-olds only. I was trying to look up what the weight this name was named after, possibly a horse or something, until I realised that because it's sprint and looking up it online, it may simply be as I was thinking it, and it is like scurrying along, and it's just simply called the Scurry Stakes because the horses are moving quickly over 5 furlongs. Saturday, York long running Queen Mother's Cup Handicap Stakes, female amateur jockeys, over 1 mile 388 yards, 3-year-olds plus. So ran since 1988, and originally the Queen Mother actually herself gave the prize, and the famous winner in 1988 was an incredibly easy win for St Princess Anne in that race, riding a horse with Insula, and the winning jockey wins their own weight in champagne. It always seems a bit of a joke. I don't know when I saw or not, when there's a jockey and her sister just got on the scales as well. I don't think the sponsors are particularly bothered about, giving more money for champagne. I think it's a bit of a scene as a light-hearted event. And after that, we have the Doug Johnson Memorial, you better believe it, Macmillan Handicap Stakes, 7 furlongs exactly, 3-year-olds plus. This race has been run since last year. York Horse is a Grand Cup Stakes listed race, 1 mile 5, 188 yards, 4-year-olds plus, and it's been run since 2008. Sunday back in Ireland, Cork has a Mallow Handicap, a very valuable handicap over 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds upwards. An interesting name I'm mentioning this one is Mallow, actually the old race name for Cork, and it's changed name to Cork. It's a bit of an odd one, and there's an argument I believe of which is back to Mallow, because it's nowhere near Cork. It's basically Mallow. It's quite a long distance away from Cork. There's always about Great Lees, changed name to Chelmsford City, and it's not that. It's actually Great Lees, not Chelmsford. And that looks near, frankly, Great Lees to Chelmsford, and Cork is to Mallow. We have a listed race here, Midsummer Sprint Stakes, another valuable race, 5 furlongs, fields upwards, obviously just named after when it is that race. The Munster Oak Stakes, Group 3, 1.5 fields plus for fillies only, obviously named after the local area. The Midsummer Stakes who ran since 2011 and Munster Oak since 2014. Over in Britain, at Doncaster, we have an Apprentice Handicap Stakes, 1 mile 3, 197 yards to 4-year-olds plus. And Salisbury has the Apprentice Handicap Stakes. It says here, part of racing excellence, whips to be carried but not used. Partly just excludes the carrying whip, I believe, and probably also the safety that it shouldn't be used. But of course, bolts, you might need to use it at that point. That's over fraction of 7 furlongs, 3-year-olds only. A Peter Lawrence Memorial Handicap Stakes, gain on the same distance, so that's 4-year-olds plus. We've also the HS Leicester Memorial Challenge Cup Confined Handicap Stakes, and that's a little under 1 mile 2 furlongs to 4-year-olds plus. But Peter Lawrence Memorial Race, a new race, obviously I assume he died quite recently. The HS Leicester race was completely different. In fact, it's a memorial race that's been run for over 50 years. And there's an article I found here saying that he began his involvement in bookmaking in the 1890s as a 16-year-old, working with his father William as a bookmaker's run over, it says here, the street corners of East End of London. And he started his own basic bookmaking business. He started owning racehorses, winning races, including Brighton Cup, the Chester Cup, and the Queen Elizabeth Cup at Lingfield. And there's an article I'm seeing here, it's written by the family, I believe, saying he's reputed to have driven from Bambi to Brighton and back again. He's convinced he could get better odds on the course in person. And the story goes that he drove his Rolls Royce to the course, so the curiosity looking for watch what's come first, collect his winnings, and drove straight back to Banbury. The article says petrol must have been a great deal cheaper then. I was talking about another of his betting coups. It didn't quite work. He was trying to protect the prices, saying here, and he carefully told everyone his horse wouldn't win, but then he'd actually gone driven to the course there, realising, well, horse had a great chance, but he was seen having a last minute bet. And so everyone else who probably knew who he was also plunged on price as well. Apparently trainer wasn't best pleased. Maybe, I don't know whether, in fact, what exactly, maybe not the SP wanted for trainer, I don't know. And away from racing, it says he won an MBE for his contribution to the First World War and his mare Bambi twice unit part of the Second World War. And his surviving sons founded the race to run at Salisbury because it was one of his and George Todd's favourite racecourses.